The doors to the grand chamber opened with a sound like thunder. Ambassador Marcus Webb walked through them alone, his footsteps echoing across a floor made of crystal that stretched for what seemed like miles. Above him, the ceiling disappeared into darkness so complete that it felt like staring into the void of space itself. Around him, rising in circular tiers that climbed higher than any building on Earth, sat the representatives of the Galactic Council. Hundreds of them. Maybe thousands. Webb had seen pictures, had studied recordings, but nothing prepared him for this moment. Beings of every shape imaginable filled the chamber. Some had too many eyes. Others had none. Creatures made of what looked like living crystals sat beside things that seemed to be made of pure energy. The air hummed with translation devices working overtime, turning thousands of different languages into a single, comprehensible stream. At the center of it all, on a throne that floated above the chamber floor, sat the Supreme Arbiter. The creature was massive, its obsidian skin reflecting the light from 1,000 view screens that floated throughout the space. 7 eyes, each the size of Webb's head, tracked his movement. 4 of its 6 arms rested on the throne's armrests. The other 2 held glowing tablets that displayed information Webb couldn't read from this distance. Webb stopped at the designated position, a small circle of light in the center of the vast floor. He placed his briefcase down carefully and stood straight, hands at his sides. He didn't fidget. Didn't look nervous. His face showed nothing. The Supreme Arbiter's voice filled the chamber, amplified by technology that made it seem to come from everywhere at once. Ambassador Webb of Earth, your species stands accused of unprecedented war crimes across 17 systems. You have obliterated civilian populations, destroyed trade vessels, committed acts of violence that violate every treaty of civilized space. The view screens around the chamber flickered to life. Webb watched images appear, images that made the assembled delegates gasp and hiss and roar in languages he didn't understand. Burning space stations, shattered fleets drifting in pieces, entire orbital facilities reduced to debris. But these weren't human stations. These weren't human fleets. We defended ourselves, Webb said. His voice was quiet, but somehow it carried through the enormous chamber. Nothing more. The Arbiter's 7 eyes narrowed. You dare to speak without permission? I dare to speak the truth, Webb replied. He reached down and opened his briefcase, pulling out a data tablet. 342 attacks on human settlements, ships, and colonies in the past 6 months. Each one documented. Each one reported to this council through proper channels. He held up the tablet, and suddenly the view screens changed. New images appeared. Human cargo ships torn apart by weapons fire. Mining stations on distant asteroids reduced to rubble. And worse. So much worse. Bodies floating in the vacuum. Children's toys drifting among the debris. The chamber fell silent. The colony of New Providence. Webb continued, his voice still steady, still calm. Population 3,214. Attacked by Krolix pirates 6 months ago. We sent distress calls. We begged for help. Council peacekeepers were only 2 hours away. We let that hang in the air for a moment. They never came. By the time they arrived, everyone was dead. The pirates had taken what they wanted and left. A delegate from the lower tiers, a creature that looked like a collection of floating ribbons, spoke up. The council cannot respond to every minor incident across minor. Webb's voice didn't rise, but something in it made the delegate stop talking. 3,000 people, families, scientists, children, minor. Minor, he tapped his tablet again. Shall I show you the other minor incidents? The 73 human miners enslaved by Thorian raiders, the colony ship that was bombed while evacuating a threatened settlement, the research station that sent distress calls for 3 days before going silent. The Supreme Arbiter raised one of its massive hands. We are aware of these incidents. The Council has been deliberating appropriate responses for 6 months, Webb interrupted. While the attacks continued, while more humans died, while we filed complaint after complaint and received nothing but promises of future action. Out. Around the chamber, some delegates shifted uncomfortably. Others leaned forward with interest. Webb noticed a smaller alien in the middle tiers, with gentle features and kind eyes, watching him with what looked like sympathy. Ambassador Lyra, of the Nomathi, his briefing had said. One of the few peaceful species in the council. We followed the rules, Webb said. We used your systems. We trusted your justice. And our people kept dying. So you resorted to barbarism? The voice came from the upper tiers. General Hacker of the Krolix Armada, his scales gleaming red under the lights. Your pathetic species lashed out like wounded prey. You destroyed property, killed soldiers, violated every law of civilized warfare. Webb turned to look directly at the Krolix general. Civilized warfare. An interesting concept from someone whose people burned settlements for sport. Hacker laughed, a sound like grinding metal. Humans are soft, weak. You cry about casualties and call it civilization. You're prey animals pretending to be predators, Webb said quietly. We're predators pretending to be prey. There's a difference. The chamber erupted in noise. Delegates shouting, devices chirping, translation systems struggling to keep up. The Supreme Arbiter raised all 6 arms for silence. Ambassador Webb, you stand here accused of crimes. You cannot threaten this council. Humanity is barely 200 years into space travel. You are a junior species. The combined might of the council could wipe your homeworld from existence in 3 hours, 17 minutes. Webb finished. He tapped his tablet again. That's how long it would take your nearest battle fleet to reach Earth. We know. We've been watching your fleet movements for months. The Arbiter's eyes widened slightly. Watching? You dare spy on. We dare do whatever is necessary to survive, Webb said. His calm finally broke, just a little. Just enough to let them hear the steel underneath. You want to talk about what we've done? Fine, let's talk about it. Let's show everyone here exactly what happened. The view screens changed again. This time they showed recordings, communications, intercepted messages. Council members discussing humanity in private chambers, calling them acceptable losses, referring to the attacks as useful tests, debating whether humans would make better slaves or better soldiers once they were broken. The chamber went silent again. But this time it was different. This was the silence of shock, of exposure. Ambassador Lyra stood up in her tier. Is this true? Did the council know about sit down, Ambassador Lyra? The Arbiter commanded. These recordings are clearly fabricated. They're authenticated with your own encryption codes, Webb said. Verified by independent sources. The council didn't just allow attacks on humanity. You encouraged them. You wanted to see how we'd respond. You wanted to test us. He looked around the chamber, making eye contact with as many delegates as he could. Well, here's your answer. Here's how we respond. Webb activated another file on his tablet. I am here, as required by the Treaty of First Contact, to deliver Earth's final warning. He paused, letting each word carry weight. Stop attacking our people. Stop raiding our ships. Stop testing our patience, or we stop being civilized. General Hacker laughed again. You threaten the entire council? With what? Your primitive weapons? Your handful of colonies? Webb looked at him calmly. The Krolix Armada. 17 battlecruisers. 42 frigates. 108 fighter squadrons. As of 72 hours ago, you had the 3rd most powerful fleet in council space. Hacker's laugh faded. Check your long-range scans, Webb suggested. The view screens flickered. New images appeared. The Krolix Armada's home fleet drifting in space. Not destroyed. Just disabled. Every ship dark. Every weapon offline. Crews alive but helpless. The chamber exploded in chaos again. Webb raised his voice just enough to be heard. We could have killed them. We chose not to. Just like we chose not to destroy the Thorian infrastructure. Just like we chose not to permanently blind the Velcathan communication arrays. We are showing restraint. We are being civilized. He looked directly at the Supreme Arbiter. But our civilization has limits. I'm here to offer you a choice. Prosecute the species that have been attacking us. Give us the justice your laws promise. or we will enforce our own justice." The Arbiter's 7 eyes blazed. "You dare give this council an ultimatum?" "I dare to protect my people," Webb replied. "Something this council has failed to do." The Arbiter rose from its throne. "Your petition is denied. This council will not be dictated to by a species barely out of its own star system. You will stand trial for your crimes. Your species will be." Webb nodded, as if confirming something he already knew. He touched the communicator in his ear. "Admiral Grant, humanity's petition has been denied. Execute protocol reckoning. Somewhere far above the council station, aboard a ship that shouldn't exist in this space." Admiral Victoria Grant looked at her command crew. Her face was grim but resolved. She had lost friends at New Providence. She had watched the recordings of those distress calls, of people begging for help that never came. "All ships," she said quietly. "You are weapons-free. Show them what civilized restraint has been costing us." In the Grand Chamber, alarms began to reek. The defensive shields around the council station flickered and died. Emergency lights bathed everything in red. Delegates scrambled for exits that suddenly wouldn't open. Webb stood perfectly still in his circle of light, watching the chaos unfold around him. The Supreme Arbiter stared at him in shock. "What have you done?" "Given you a demonstration," Webb replied. "Your defenses are down. Your systems are compromised. Your station is completely vulnerable. 17 cargo ships we delivered as tribute last month? They weren't cargo ships." He smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "They're military vessels, and right now, they're targeting every critical system on this station. Not to destroy, not yet. Just to show you that we can." The Arbiter's voice shook. "This is an act of war." "Oh," Webb corrected. "This is a final warning. War is what comes next if you don't listen." He looked around the chamber one last time, at the thousands of aliens who had thought humanity was weak, was soft, was prey. "We came here in peace. We followed your rules. We asked for justice. You gave us nothing but contempt." Picked up his briefcase. "So now we're going to teach you something important. Being civilized doesn't mean being harmless. It means choosing when to be dangerous." The view screens flickered one more time, showing human ships appearing on long-range scans throughout council space. Not attacking. Just there, watching, waiting. "The next move," Webb said quietly, "is yours." The council chamber descended into complete chaos. Delegates shouted in hundreds of languages. Some tried to access their personal communication devices, only to find them dead. Others rushed toward exits that remained sealed. The Supreme Arbiter's 7 eyes darted between view screens. Watching its carefully constructed authority crumble in real time, Marcus Webb stood motionless in his circle of light, briefcase in hand, waiting. Around him, security forces tried to activate weapons that no longer functioned. Automated defense systems remained silent. Every technological advantage the Council possessed had become useless. How? The Arbiter's voice cut through the noise. "Our networks are unhackable. Our encryption is quantum level. Our systems have defenses built by the greatest minds in the galaxy." "Built by aliens who underestimated humans?" Webb replied. "You see, while you were testing us with raids and attacks, we were studying you. Every piece of technology we recovered from destroyed pirate ships, every crashed fighter, every damaged probe, we took them apart and learned." He gestured to the dead view screens. "You've had faster-than-light travel for thousands of years. You've grown comfortable with it. Lazy. Your security protocols haven't been updated in centuries. Why would they be?" "No one challenged you," Webb smiled slightly. "We've only had FTL for 200 years. We're still hungry, still learning, still improving, and we've been inside your networks for the past 8 months." A new voice joined the conversation, this one calm and measured. Ambassador Lyra of the Nomathi stepped down from her tier, moving carefully through the panicked crowd. "Ambassador Webb, please. There must be another way to resolve this. More violence will only create more victims." Webb finished. "Like the victims at New Providence. Like the enslaved miners. Like the research team that died calling for help. Lyra's gentle features showed genuine pain. I tried to help. I filed motions. I gathered evidence of the attacks. But the council moved slowly. I couldn't, I know, Webb said, his voice softening slightly. I've seen your records, Ambassador Lyra. You're one of the few who actually tried. But trying isn't enough anymore. Our people are dying while the council deliberates. From the upper tiers, General Hacker's voice boomed out. Enough of this theater. You want war, humans? You'll have it. He activated his personal communicator, different from the council's compromised systems. Krolek's command. This is General Hacker. Full mobilization. Prepare to teach these prey animals their place in the communicator died in his hand. Webb looked up at the general. Did you really think we only compromised council systems? Every species that's attacked us, we've been studying. Learning your technology. Mapping your networks. Right now, your fleet commanders are staring at blank screens, wondering why nothing works. 6 months earlier, in a secured facility deep beneath Earth's surface, the plan had been formed. Dr. Elena Vasquez stood before a holographic display showing the galactic map. Red marks indicating every attack on human settlements. Her eyes were hard, her voice harder. I think we're primitive, she said to the assembled team of Earth's best hackers, engineers, and xenotechnologists. They think our technology is inferior. They're wrong. We're not inferior. We're different, and we can use that. She pulled up schematics of alien communication systems. Their technology is ancient. Powerful, yes, but ancient. Like a castle with thick walls but old locks. They've never needed to innovate because no one has challenged them. A young programmer named David raised his hand. How do we even access their networks? The encryption isn't designed to stop us, Dr. Vasquez interrupted. It's designed to stop alien hackers using alien methods. We use human methods. Human thinking. We find the cracks they don't even know exist. She had been right. Within 3 months, human programmers had created backdoors into every major council system. Within 6, they had access to military networks across a dozen species. By the time Ambassador Webb walked into the Grand Chamber, Earth had eyes and ears everywhere. Back in the present, the Supreme Arbiter tried to regain control. This changes nothing. You may have temporarily disrupted our systems. But the full might of the Council, 3 view screens suddenly flickered back to life. But not showing what the Arbiter wanted. Instead, they displayed 3 different battlefields. The Krolek's Armada, the Thorian Defense Force, and the Velkathon Imperial Guard. All attempting to mount counterattacks against human positions. All 3 were failing spectacularly. The Krolek ships moved in traditional formation, weapons powered and ready. Human vessels appeared on their sensors, seeming to materialize from nowhere. Small, fast, impossibly maneuverable. The Kroleks opened fire, their powerful beam weapons cutting through space where the human ships had been. Milliseconds before, then the human ships fired back, not with energy weapons, not with missiles. With simple, kinetic rounds, accelerated to incredible speeds, chunks of dense metal moving so fast they punched through shields and armor like paper. The Krolek's formations scattered, trying to adapt to this primitive but devastatingly effective tactic. Barbaric, General Hacker muttered, watching his forces struggle. Effective, Webb corrected. Your shields are designed to disperse energy. They're less effective against solid matter moving at relativistic speeds. We learned that from studying your defense systems. The second screen showed the Thorian fleet attempting a different approach. They tried to surround a human mining operation using overwhelming numbers. What they found instead was an empty station and thousands of automated drones, each one carrying a simple but deadly payload. The drones swarmed the Thorian ships like insects, attaching to hulls and disabling propulsion systems, weapon arrays, and life support. Not destroying, just neutralizing. The Thorian crews found themselves drifting in space, alive but helpless, waiting for rescue. The third screen showed something even more disturbing to the watching delegates. The Velkathon, the oldest and most technologically advanced species in the Council. attempting a cyber assault on human systems. They're elite hackers, beings who had been breaking alien encryption for millennia. Found themselves locked out of networks they should have dominated, and then human hackers counterattacked. Within minutes, Valcathan communication arrays across 3 systems went dark. Not destroyed, just silenced. Every message intercepted. Every command rerouted. Their own networks turned against them. Dr. Vasquez, watching from the human command ship Prometheus orbiting above the council station, allowed herself a small smile. On her console sat a photograph of a young girl with her mother's eyes, her daughter, killed at New Providence. This was for her, for all of them. Target lock confirmed on all Krolix military installations, her tactical officer reported. Hold fire, Vasquez ordered. We're not here to slaughter them. We're here to make them understand. In the Grand Chamber, Ambassador Lyra spoke again, her voice trembling. Please, Ambassador Webb, show mercy. Many of these species were manipulated by the Council leadership. They were told humans were dangerous, aggressive, that preemptive strikes were necessary for galactic safety. Webb looked at her for a long moment. I believe you, Ambassador. I do. But intentions don't bring back the dead. Good excuses don't rebuild destroyed homes. Paused. However, you're right about one thing. We're not here for revenge. We're here for justice. He turned back to the Supreme Arbiter. I'm going to make you an offer. One time only. Surrender those responsible for authorizing attacks on human territory. Submit to independent investigation of Council corruption. Agree to equal representation for all species, including humanity. Or we demonstrate what happens when we stop showing restraint. General Hacker spat on the chamber floor. I will never surrender to prey animals. Krolix warriors do not bow to General Hacker, Webb interrupted, his voice cold as vacuum. Your homeworld has a population of 17 billion. Your orbital defenses are currently offline. Your fleet is disabled. You're common. The structure is in chaos. I have 17 human vessels in position to demonstrate what we call proportional response. He pulled out his tablet. Proportional response. You killed 3,000 at New Providence. We could kill 3,000 on your homeworld in the next 60 seconds. Precise. Surgical. Only military targets? Only those directly responsible for authorizing raids on human settlements. The chamber fell silent. Every delegate understood what Webb was saying. Humans could strike anywhere. Could kill with precision that made traditional warfare look like throwing rocks. Hackers' scales flushed from red to pale yellow. Fear. Or, Webb continued, you can surrender. Face trial. Answer for your crimes. Live with the consequences of your choices. You wouldn't dare, Hacker stammered. The Council would never allow. The Council is no longer in control here, Webb said quietly. We are, and we're offering you something your people never gave ours. A choice. The view screens changed again, showing the Krolix homeworld from orbit. 17 sleek human ships hung in space around it, weapons powered but not firing, waiting. Hacker looked at the screens. Looked at his dead communicator. Looked at the other delegates watching him. His shoulders sagged. I surrender. In the name of the Krolix Armada, I surrender. Wise choice, Webb said. He touched his communicator. Admiral Grant, stand down. The general has accepted terms. But even as some species began to see reason, others did not. 3 more delegations rose from their seats, representatives of species who had profited from raiding human settlements. They activated hidden weapons. It's illegal in the Council chamber, but present nonetheless. They didn't even get their weapons raised before. Human security forces appeared. Moving from concealed positions throughout the chamber, they moved with the precision of soldiers who had trained for this exact scenario. The attempted attack was over in seconds. The delegates disarmed, restrained, alive, but defeated. We even knew about your hidden weapons, Webb said to the chamber at large. We've been watching, learning, preparing. Every time you thought you were testing us, you were teaching us. Every raid was intelligence gathered. Every battle was a lesson in your tactics, your technology, your weaknesses. He looked directly at the Supreme Arbiter. You wanted to know if humans were worthy of a place in the Council. Here's your answer. We're not asking for a place anymore. We're taking it. And we're going to make sure that what happened to us never happens to another species. The Arbiter started to respond, but its words were cut off by new alarms. Different ones. Not Council systems failing, but something else entirely. A massive energy signature appeared on every working scanner in the chamber. Something big. Something ancient. Something that made even the Supreme Arbiter's 7 eyes widen in shock. Impossible, the Arbiter whispered. They never intervene. The view screens activated one final time, showing a vessel emerging from deep space. It was enormous, dwarfing even the largest Council ships. Its hull was made of materials that seemed to shift and change, reflecting starlight in ways that hurt to look at directly. The Velcathan Empire had arrived. Not their military. Not their diplomats. Their executor. The ancient being who ruled their entire civilization. A creature that had seen empires rise and fall. That had witnessed the birth and death of species. A single message broadcast across all channels. In a voice that sounded like stars dying. We will speak with Earth's representative, alone. Marcus Webb stood in the council chamber, surrounded by chaos, facing the unknown. He touched his communicator one more time. Understood. I'm ready. The last thing he saw before being transported away was Ambassador Lyra's face, equal parts hope and terror. As the galaxy's oldest power took an interest in its newest player, Marcus, Webb materialized inside a chamber unlike anything he had ever seen. The walls seemed to exist and not exist at the same time, showing glimpses of starfields, galaxies, and things he couldn't name. The air itself felt heavy with age, with power. With the weight of millennia, before him stood Executor Kalen of the Velcathan Empire. The being was humanoid in basic shape, but that's where similarities ended. Its skin shifted between solid matter and something else, like watching smoke try to hold a form. Eyes that contained entire nebulae looked down at Webb. When it spoke, the words seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere. Ambassador Marcus Webb of Earth, Kalen said. You have disrupted the galaxy's carefully maintained order. Impressive, foolish, but impressive. Webb straightened his shoulders. Fear would accomplish nothing here. With respect, Executor, we disrupted nothing. We defended ourselves against an unjust system. Unjust. Kalen repeated, the word hanging in the air. An interesting perspective. Walk with me, Ambassador. Let me show you something. The chamber changed around them. Suddenly they stood in what looked like an observation deck overlooking countless holographic displays. Each one showed a different species, a different planet, a different moment in time. 10,000 years, Kalen said. That is how long I have guided my people. That is how long I have watched the Council operate. The Executor gestured to the displays. Every species you see here faced the same test. Humanity just faced. Raiders, pirates, sanctioned attacks disguised as random violence. Webb felt his stomach tighten. You knew. You've always known what the Council was doing. Of course. The Velcathan invented the system. Kalen moved to one display, showing a species Webb didn't recognize. Gentle beings, covered in soft fur, with large innocent eyes. The Tyranni. Beautiful people. Talented artists. When raiders attacked them, they responded with negotiation. With pleas for peace. With offers of tribute, the display showed the Tyranni worlds one by one being absorbed into other species' territories. They became servants, vassals, their culture erased, their people scattered. Another display showed different aliens, these ones with sharp teeth and aggressive features. The Krell, when attacked, they responded with uncontrolled rage, struck out at everything, allies and enemies alike. Destroyed 3 council species before they were put down. The display showed the Krell homeworld burning. Now Kalen said, turning to Webb, we have humanity. Attacked, yes. Wronged, certainly. But instead of collapsing into submission, or exploding into blind rage, you did something different. You prepared. you learned. You waited. And when you finally acted, you acted with precision, with purpose, with restraint even in anger. Webb felt the weight of those ancient eyes upon him. You were testing us. All of this. It was another test. The galaxy is a harsh place, Ambassador. The Council, corrupt as it has become, maintains a form of order. But that order requires strength. Species that cannot defend themselves become prey. Species that defend themselves recklessly become threats that must be eliminated. The test is simple. Can you be both strong and wise? People died, Webb said, his voice hard. Our people. Good people? Children? You're telling me that was all just a test? I am telling you that is the reality of galactic politics, Kalen replied without emotion. The strong survive. The weak do not. The question is not whether that is fair. The question is what you do with that knowledge. Webb looked at the displays, at the thousands of species that had faced this choice. How many passed? In 10,000 years. Kalen paused. Including humanity? 3. The number hit Webb like a physical blow. 3 out of thousands. The Valkathan were the first, Kalen continued. We were once like you. Peaceful explorers. We believed in cooperation and shared progress. Then we were tested, and we failed the first time. Lost worlds. Lost billions. But we learned. We adapted. We became what we needed to be. Executor's form shifted, seeming to grow darker. We became the most feared species in the galaxy. Not through cruelty. Not through random violence. Through the simple demonstration that harming us had consequences too terrible to risk. Back on Earth, in a secured command center, President Amara Okonkwo watched live feeds from across human space. 3 more species had attempted coordinated strikes on human colonies in the past hour, hoping to take advantage of humanity's focus on the council chamber. All 3 had been neutralized, their ships disabled, their crews alive but stranded, rescue beacons activated so their own people could retrieve them. We could have destroyed them, General Marcus Stone said. Webb's brother, the man who had argued for immediate retaliation months ago, why do we keep letting them live? Because we're not monsters, President Okonkwo replied. We're trying to build something better than what exists. It's by threatening to kill billions. By demonstrating that we can, and choosing not to, she corrected. There's a difference. Fear without mercy creates enemies. Fear with mercy creates respect. She pulled up casualty reports. Human losses, minimal. Enemy losses, minimal. Infrastructure damage, significant but repairable. We're walking a knife edge, Marcus. Too soft, and they'll never stop. Too hard, and we become what we're fighting against. General Stone nodded slowly. You know, Marcus is meeting with the Velkathan right now. If they decide we're a threat, then all of this was for nothing, Okonkwo finished. But I have to believe there's another way. A way to be strong without being cruel. Powerful without being tyrannical. Across human space, the same scene was playing out repeatedly. Human vessels intercepting raiders. Disabling them. Offering surrender. And when surrender was refused, striking with precision that left military targets destroyed and civilian populations untouched. Captain James Rivera of the destroyer Odyssey stood on his bridge, watching a pirate fleet scatter before his weapons. His crew was young, many of them colonists from the outer settlements. They had seen what raiders did to undefended targets. Captain, we have firing solutions on all enemy vessels, his weapons officer reported. Broadcast surrender terms, Rivera ordered. Give them 60 seconds to respond. Sir, they've been raiding our convoys for months. We could end them right now. Rivera turned to look at his officer, a young woman barely out of the academy. We could, but then we'd be no better than they are. We fight because we have to. We show mercy because we can. That's what makes us different. 40 seconds later, the pirate fleet surrendered. In the Velkathan flagship, Executor Kalen showed Webb more displays. Battle after battle, human forces. Demonstrating capabilities that shouldn't exist for such a young species. Advanced tactics, innovative weapons, most importantly, restraint. You understand the ancient equation, Kalen said. Peace plus preparation equals survival. Too many species learn only half. They have peace without preparation and become victims. Or preparation without peace and become tyrants. You have found the balance. We're trying, Webb said. But people keep dying. Our people and theirs. How long do we have to keep proving ourselves? Until the galaxy believes you, Kalen replied. Words mean nothing. Treaties mean nothing. Only demonstrated capability matters. You say you want peace? Show them you can wage war. You say you want justice? Show them you can enforce it. If you say you want equality? Take it. The executor paused, its form solidifying slightly. I am going to offer you 3 choices, Ambassador Webb. 3 paths for humanity's future. Choose wisely because you cannot consult your leaders. Communications are blocked. The decision is yours alone. The chamber changed again, showing 3 different visions. Choice 1. Join the Velkathon Empire as equals. Abandon the Council. With our combined strength, we would be unstoppable. No species would dare attack either of our peoples again. You would have the peace you seek. The vision showed human and Velkathan ships side by side, dominating the galaxy. Safe, powerful, isolated from the rest of galactic civilization. Choice 2. Return to the Council. Use your demonstrated strength to force reform from within. Make them treat all species equally, not just the powerful. Become the change you wish to see. The second vision showed the Council chamber rebuilt, restructured, with humans and smaller species finally having real voices, chaotic, difficult, but potentially transformative. Choice 3. Abandon both. Take your people and isolate yourselves from galactic politics. Protect your own space, let the rest of the galaxy sort itself out. The third vision showed human space, fortified and independent, safe, limited, turning inward instead of outward. Each choice has merit, Kalen said. Each has costs. You have 30 minutes to decide, Ambassador, and I suggest you decide quickly. The view shifted one final time, showing the Council station. Supreme Arbiter, cornered and desperate, had activated something. Deep in the station's core, an ancient weapon was powering up. Old technology. Forbidden technology, designed to destroy entire planets. It was pointed at Earth. The Arbiter is willing to destroy everything rather than accept change, Kalen observed clinically.
Typical.
The corrupt always choose self-destruction over admitting fault. Webb felt ice in his veins. How long? 28 minutes, until the weapon reaches full charge. 29, until it fires. Your homeworld has no idea it's coming. No defense that can stop it. Can you stop it? Kellen's nebula eyes regarded him calmly. Yes, but I will not. Shh. This is humanity's test, Ambassador. Not mine. You claim to be strong enough for a place among the stars? Prove it. Save your world. Make your choice. Show the galaxy what humanity truly is. Webb's hands clenched into fists. You're gambling with 8 billion lives. No, Kalen corrected. The Arbiter is gambling with 8 billion lives. I am simply letting events unfold. If humanity cannot handle this crisis, then perhaps you are not ready for the responsibility that comes with galactic power. That's insane. That is reality. Choose Ambassador Webb, join us and we help you. Form the Council and they help you. Isolate yourselves and you face this alone. But choose now, because your time is running out. Webb looked at the countdown. 27 minutes. His mind raced through scenarios, possibilities, consequences. Each choice would define humanity's future for generations, maybe forever, and somewhere out there, on a blue-green world that had only recently reached for the stars. 8 billion people were going about their lives, unaware that their existence hung in the balance. Executor Kalen Webb said slowly, before I answer, I need to know one thing. Ask. You disabled that weapon hours ago, didn't you? This is just another test. Another way to see how we respond under pressure. Kellen's form rippled in what might have been surprise. What makes you think that? Because you said you've been watching us. Learning about us, testing us, is the one thing you would have learned is that humans don't respond well to artificial time limits. We rebel against them. We find third options. We refuse to play by others' rules. Webb straightened his shoulders. So either that weapon is already disabled, or it's real, and you're genuinely cruel enough to let billions die to prove a point. Either way, my answer is the same. And that answer is, don't need your help. Don't need the Council's help. And we're not running away. Webb's voice was steel. We're going to save our world ourselves. Then we're going to fix the Council ourselves. And then we're going to make sure this never happens to anyone else. Not as your vassals. Not as the Council's servants. As equals, he looked directly into those ancient, nebula-filled eyes. You wanted to see what humanity is? Or the species that refuses to choose between your three options? We make our own path. We write our own rules. We save ourselves. Webb touched his communicator. Admiral Grant, this is Webb. You're going to receive targeting data for a weapon system on the Council station. Destroy it now. From orbit above the Council station, Admiral Grant received the data. Her tactical officer looked at her in shock. Admiral, how did he know? Because he's Marcus Webb, Grant said simply. And because we prepare for everything. Fire. A single human ship broke from its position. One precise shot, the weapon system deep in the Council station exploded. Its power core contained and neutralized before it could cascade. Earth never knew how close it had come to annihilation. Back in the Valcathan flagship, Kalen stood silent for a long moment. Then, for the first time in their conversation, the ancient being smiled. Impressive, Ambassador. We did indeed disable that weapon hours ago. But you couldn't have known that for certain. You gambled. And you won. I didn't gamble, Webb corrected. I trusted my people. There's a difference. Yes, Kalen agreed. There is. And that Ambassador Webb is why humanity passes the test. The chamber aboard the Valcathan flagship seemed to brighten, though Webb couldn't identify any actual light source. Executor Kellen's form solidified further, becoming more defined, more present, Webb realized, a sign of respect. In 10,000 years, I have witnessed 3 species master the ancient equation, Kalen said. The Valcathan, who learned through loss. The Nomathi, who understood it instinctively but lacked the strength to enforce it. And now, humanity, who discovered it through necessity. The executor gestured, and the chamber transformed again. This time it showed scenes from Valcathan history. Worlds burning. Fleets destroyed. A civilization brought to its knees by species who mistook their peaceful nature for weakness. We were scientists, Kalen explained. Philosophers. Artists. We believed that intelligence and reason could overcome any conflict. We were wrong. The galaxy taught us that peace is not the absence of the capacity for violence. Peace is the choice not to use that capacity. Webb watched the ancient history play out, saw the Valcathan rise from defeat, saw them build weapons that made their attackers flee in terror, saw them become the very thing they had feared. What you went too far, Webb said, recognizing the pattern. You became so feared that no one dared approach you. You isolated yourselves, became separate from the rest of the galaxy. Yes, Kalen admitted. We overcompensated. Turned strength into isolation. It took us millennia to find the balance again, to remain powerful enough to deter aggression but open enough to maintain relationships. The ancient being looked at Webb. You have a chance to learn from our mistakes, to find that balance faster than we did. By reforming the Council. By proving that strength and justice can coexist, Kalen corrected. The Council has become corrupt because the powerful face no consequences. They attack the weak because they can. You have shown them consequences. Now, you must show them an alternative. The chamber shifted once more, returning Webb to a space overlooking the Council station. He could see the chaos continuing below. Delegates arguing, security forces trying to restore order, the Supreme Arbiter attempting to reassert control. I'm returning you now, Kalen said. But know this, Ambassador Webb. The Valcathan Empire recognizes Earth as an equal power. We will not interfere in your efforts to reform the Council. We'll watch. And if humanity follows our path into isolation and fear, we will be disappointed. And if we succeed, Webb asked, then perhaps the galaxy will finally have the leadership it deserves. Webb materialized back in the Grand Chamber to find the situation had evolved in his absence. Ambassador Lyra stood at the center of the floor, surrounded by dozens of other delegates. Species Webb recognized as the Council's junior members, the ones who had suffered under the current system. Ambassador Webb, Lyra called out when she saw him. Thank the stars. We've been organizing. Many of us have wanted change for decades, but we lacked the strength to challenge the Council leadership. You've given us that strength. The Supreme Arbiter rose from its throne, all 7 eyes blazing with fury. This is mutiny, treason. I will not allow. You have no authority here anymore, Lyra interrupted, her gentle voice suddenly hard as steel. We have the votes. We have the evidence. And we have the backing of Earth's military to ensure a fair process. Your reign is over, Arbiter. Webb moved to stand beside Lyra. What's the situation? 17 species have declared support for immediate Council restructuring, she explained quickly. 23 more are considering. The Kralix, Thorian, and Velcathan delegations have withdrawn their opposition after what happened to their fleets. But the Arbiter is refusing to step down. Of course it is, Webb said. Power never surrenders willingly. As if to prove his point, the Arbiter activated hidden defenses that Webb's people had missed. Combat drones emerged from concealed compartments throughout the chamber. Weapons powered up. Emergency shields activated around the throne. You want to take the Council? The Arbiter roared. You'll have to kill me first. Webb sighed. Admiral Grant, are you seeing this? Affirmative, came Grant's voice through his communicator. Those defenses weren't on any schematic we had. The Arbiter must have kept them completely off network. Can you disable them without casualties? Negative. They're hardwired. Old technology, immune to our hacking. We'd have to use force. Webb looked around the chamber. Hundreds of delegates, many of them innocent beings who just wanted to serve their people. A firefight here would kill dozens at minimum. But before he could give an order, something unexpected happened. The combat drones suddenly powered down. The shields around the throne flickered and died. The Arbiter's weapons went silent. Standing behind the throne was a small maintenance worker, a being barely 3 feet tall, holding what looked like a simple wrench. The creature had opened an access panel and pulled a handful of cables. It's been waiting years to do that, the maintenance worker said in a squeaky voice. Nobody notices maintenance staff. Nobody thinks we matter, but we see everything. Know everything. Know where all the hidden switches are. The chamber erupted in shocked laughter. The mighty Supreme Arbiter, brought down by a janitor with a wrench, Lyra stepped forward, flanked by security forces loyal to the reform movement. Supreme Arbiter, you are hereby removed from office. You will stand trial for corruption, conspiracy to commit acts of war, in violation of the very treaties you swore to uphold. The Arbiter's eyes dimmed. Its massive form seemed to shrink. You don't understand what you're doing. The Council needs strong leadership. Without someone to maintain order, the galaxy will tear itself apart. The galaxy has been tearing itself apart under your leadership, Webb countered. You just didn't notice because it wasn't happening to you. As the Arbiter was led away, Lyra turned to the assembled delegates. We have a galaxy to rebuild. It won't be easy. It won't be fast. But it will be fair. Every species, from the oldest to the newest, will have an equal voice. Over the next hours, the process of reformation began. Trials were scheduled for those who had authorized attacks on humanity and other junior species. General Hacker was first forced to face testimony from the families of New Providence. The confident general who had called humans prey animals sat silent as victim. After victim described what his raiders had done, Dr. Alina Vasquez was there, having transported down from the Prometheus. She stood before the court, holding the photograph of her daughter. Her name was Sophia, she said quietly. She was 7 years old. She wanted to be a scientist like her mother. She loved drawing pictures of aliens, imagining all the friends she'd make when she grew up. She placed the photograph on the witness stand. General Hacker's raiders killed her while she was hiding in a closet with her stuffed bear. The report says she was calling for me when she died. The court chamber was silent. Even species who had supported the raids looked away in shame. I helped develop the weapons that crippled your fleet, General Vasquez continued. I could have designed them to kill. To make your people suffer, as mine did. But I didn't. Do you know why? Hacker said nothing. Because my daughter wouldn't have wanted that. She believed in friendship, in understanding, in peace. So I built weapons that disabled instead of destroyed. That gave your people a chance to surrender, to choose to be better. Don't waste that chance. Across human space, similar scenes played out. Species that had attacked human settlements now faced the consequences of their actions. But instead of execution, instead of enslavement, they faced something more powerful. They faced justice, fair trials, proportional punishment, the opportunity to make amends. It was unprecedented in galactic history. Captain James Rivera found himself leading a rescue mission to evacuate civilians from a Thorian colony that had been caught in the crossfire of the conflict. His crew worked alongside former enemies, pulling families from damaged structures, providing medical aid, sharing supplies. A young Thorian child, barely old enough to walk, handed him a small stone. A gift. A thank you. Rivera knelt down. You're welcome, little one. We're all just trying to survive out here. Might as well help each other do it. Aboard the Prometheus, Admiral Victoria Grant reviewed casualty reports. Human losses. 147 dead, mostly from the initial raids before Earth had mobilized its defenses. Enemy losses, 63 dead, mostly from accidents during disabling. Operations, or from commanders who chose to fight to the death rather than surrender. Less than 300 total. Deaths in a conflict that could have killed millions. Who really did it? Her tactical officer said in wonder. We won a war without becoming monsters. We won a war by refusing to become monsters, Grant corrected. There's a difference. Back in the Grand Chamber, now reorganized as a proper court, Ambassador Lyra was officially appointed as interim supreme arbiter. Her first act was to recognize Earth as a full council member with equal voting rights. Her second act was to create a Truth and Reconciliation Commission to investigate every instance of sanctioned violence against junior species over the past century. Her third act was to establish new protocols requiring council approval for any military action, with provisions for immediate defense but strict oversight for anything else. The galaxy was changing. Slowly, painfully, but changing. Webb stood in the chamber, watching it all unfold, when a message came through from President Okonkwo. Marcus, you need to come home. The council is stable. Lyra can handle things from here. Your brother is organizing a memorial service for New Providence. The families need to see you. Webb felt the exhaustion hit him all at once. He had been running on adrenaline and determination for weeks. Now, with the immediate crisis past, the weight of it all came crashing down. Understood, Madam President? I'm coming home. He prepared to leave. Ambassador Lyra approached him. Ambassador Webb, I cannot thank you enough for what you've done. You didn't just save humanity. You saved the Council. Saved the galaxy from its own corruption. We're not done yet, Webb replied. This is just the beginning. Real change takes time. There will be resistance. Species who benefit from the old system won't give up easily, I know. But now we have hope, and we have proof that another way is possible. She paused. Will you stay? Help us rebuild? Earth's voice will be crucial in the coming months. What? Webb thought about it. About the work still to be done. About the battles still to fight. But he also thought about Sofia Vasquez, about the 3,000 dead at New Providence, about all the victims who deserve to be remembered. I'll stay, he said. But first, I'm going home to honor our dead. They're the reason any of this matters. They're the reason we couldn't just walk away, Lyra nodded. Of course, take the time you need. The Council will be here when you return. As Webb's transport lifted off from the Council station, heading for the long journey back to Earth, he looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, the Velcathan were watching, judging, waiting to see if humanity would truly find the balance between strength and wisdom. Somewhere out there, the Krolloks were rebuilding their fleet, deciding whether to seek revenge or reconciliation. Somewhere out there, dozens of junior species were looking to Earth as an example, wondering if they too could stand up for themselves. And somewhere out there, in the darkness between stars, new threats lurked. Threats that didn't care about council politics or galactic reform. Threats that would test humanity's newfound strength in ways they couldn't yet imagine. But for now, Marcus Webb was going home. To mourn, to remember, to honor those who had paid the price for humanity's place among the stars. The ancient equation had been solved. Peace plus preparatio. N equals survival. Now came the hard part, making it last. The memorial gardens at New Providence had been rebuilt in the 6 months since the attack. Where raiders had left only ash and ruin, human hands had created something beautiful. Trees brought from Earth grew alongside alien plants gifted by species seeking to make amends. Water features circled a central monument, simple stone wall bearing 3,214 names. Marcus Webb stood before the wall, his hand resting on one name in particular. Sofia Vasquez. Age 7 behind him, thousands had gathered. Survivors, family members, fellow colonists, and something new, representatives from a dozen alien species. Come to pay respects to the victims of violence their governments had sanctioned. General Marcus Stone. Webb's brother stood at the podium preparing to speak. His military uniform was crisp, his posture perfect, but his eyes were red. He had lost friends here. Fellow soldiers who had died trying to protect civilians while help that should have come stayed away. We gather here, Stone began, his voice carrying across the gardens, to remember those we lost, to honor their sacrifice, and to promise that their deaths meant something. He paused, looking out at the crowd. 6 months ago, this place was burning. People we loved were dying. We called for help, and no one came. We were alone, abandoned, left to face horror with no one but each other. Webb felt the words like physical blows. He had been safe on Earth when it happened, preparing diplomatic protests that would go nowhere. His brother had been here, pulling bodies from wreckage, comforting the dying, watching helpless as the raiders escaped. But we weren't weak, Stone continued. We weren't helpless. We were just waiting, preparing, learning, and when the time came, we showed the galaxy what happens when you mistake patience for weakness. A murmur ran through the crowd. Some approving, some uncertain. However, Stone's voice softened. We also showed them something else. We showed them mercy. We disabled fleets instead of destroying them. We neutralized threats instead of annihilating them. We gave our enemies the chance to surrender, to face justice, to become better. He looked directly at the alien delegates. Some of you represent species that attacked us, that killed our people, that left this place in ruins, and yet you're here, alive, free to pay your respects. Do you know why? The delegates shifted uncomfortably, because the people we lost wouldn't have wanted endless revenge. Sofia Vasquez wanted to make alien friends. Marcus Chen wanted to study xenobiology. Sarah Kim wanted to compose music that every species could appreciate. They came to the stars with hope, with dreams, with the belief that we could all be better together. Stone's voice broke slightly. So we won our war the way they would have wanted. With strength? Yes. With determination? Absolutely. But also with the hope that maybe, just maybe, we could create something better. He stepped back from the podium. Webb moved forward to take his place, though he hadn't planned to speak. But looking at that wall of names, he knew he had to. I'm the one who delivered Earth's final warning, Webb said quietly. I stood in the Grand Chamber and threatened the entire council. Told them to stop attacking us, or we would stop being civilized. And we meant it. Every word. He turned to look at the alien delegates directly. But civilization isn't about being harmless. It's about choosing when and how to use your power. It's about being strong enough to defend yourself and wise enough to know when to show mercy. An elderly Krolix delegate stepped forward, his scales gray with age. Ambassador Webb, I am Elder Thorn. I served in the Krolix military for 60 years before retiring. I taught General Hacker everything he knew about warfare. He bowed his head. I am responsible for creating the monster who ordered this attack. I am here to ask forgiveness I do not deserve. The crowd stirred. Some angry, some curious. Elder Thorn, Webb said carefully. What is General Hacker doing now? Serving a life sentence in a rehabilitation facility, Thorn replied. Learning about the species he harmed. Facing the consequences of his actions. It is more mercy than we showed your people. It's justice, Webb corrected. Not revenge, justice. And that's the difference between us and the old council. We don't seek to destroy our enemies. We seek to stop them from creating more victims. Dr. Elena Vasquez stepped forward from the crowd. She carried a small box, ornately decorated with images of stars and spaceships. A child's artwork. Sophia's artwork. This box contains letters, Vasquez said, her voice steady despite the tears on her face. Letters Sophia wrote to the aliens she wanted to meet someday. She wrote one every week, about Earth, about her life, about her dreams. She opened the box. There are 43 letters here. She was writing the 44th when the attack began. She looked at the alien delegates. I could hate you. I could want you all dead. But my daughter spent her short life believing in friendship across the stars. So instead, I'm going to give each of your delegations one of these letters. Read them. Understand what your violence took from the galaxy. And then spend the rest of your lives making sure it never happens again. One by one, alien delegates approached. Each received a letter written in a child's handwriting. Many were crying by the time they walked away, these beings from species that didn't cry. Using whatever gesture of grief their biology allowed, the ceremony continued. Names were read. Stories were shared. 3,214 lives remembered. Honored, mourned, as the sun set over New Providence. Ambassador Lyra approached Webb. She had traveled from the council station specifically for this memorial. Ambassador, I have news from the council. The Truth and Reconciliation Commission has finished its preliminary investigation, and 117 species participated in sanctioned raids on junior species over the past century. 41 species were victim to these raids. The total death toll exceeds 2 million beings. She paused. And the Supreme Arbiter personally authorized 73% of these attacks. Webb felt sick. 2 million. And humanity's losses, terrible as they were, represented barely a fraction of the total. The Arbiter and 42 other council officials are being charged with crimes against sapient life, Alira continued. Their trials begin next month. But Ambassador, there's resistance. Several powerful species are threatening to leave the council rather than submit to the new oversight protocols. Let them leave, Webb said. A smaller council that actually enforces its own laws is better than a large one that allows atrocities. The Velcathan agree with you. Executor Kalen sent a formal message. The Empire recognizes the Reformed Council and will establish full diplomatic relations with any species that commits to the new justice protocols. Webb smiled slightly. Kalen is forcing their hand. Join the Reformed Council and get Velcathan support, or leave and face isolation. Clever, and it's working. 23 of the 27 species threatening to leave have reconsidered. The other 4 are already facing internal pressure from their own populations. Lyra looked at the memorial wall. Change is happening, Ambassador. Real change. Because you gave us the courage to demand it. Paid for it in blood, Webb replied. Let's make sure the price was worth it. Over the following weeks, the galaxy transformed. The trials proceeded, broadcast across every communication network. Species that had hidden their crimes for decades were forced to face their victims. The evidence was overwhelming. The verdicts were just Captain James Rivera found himself appointed as liaison between Earth and the Reformed Council Defense Force. His first assignment was to train joint military units. Combining human tactical innovation with alien technology and experience, his crew was diverse now. Humans working alongside former enemies, learning from each other, building trust through shared purpose. Feels strange, his second officer, a former Thorian raider named Vex, admitted. 6 months ago, I was attacking your ships. Now I'm defending them. What changed? Rivera asked. I met the people I was hurting, Vex replied. Saw their faces, heard their stories, realized they weren't different from my own family. Just trying to survive. Just trying to build a life among the stars. He paused. Your people could have killed me when they captured my ship. Instead, they gave me food, medical care, and a chance to choose a different path. How do you fight someone who shows you that kind of mercy? You don't fight them, Rivera said. You join them. Admiral Victoria Grant oversaw the decommissioning of the Ghost Fleet, the vessels built specifically for the conflict with the Council. The ships were being converted to exploration and defense platforms, their weapons systems recalibrated for peacekeeping rather than war. Feels like we're dismantling our own strength, her tactical officer observed. No, Grant corrected. We're redirecting it. We built these ships to send a message. The message has been received. Now we need different tools for different challenges. She pulled up reports from the frontier, where human and alien survey teams were working together to map new regions of space. Joint research stations, cooperative colonies. A species that had been at war 6 months ago, now working side by side. This is what Sophia wanted, she said quietly, looking at a photo of the young girl that Dr. Vasquez had distributed throughout the fleet. This is what they all wanted. We gave them justice. Now we owe them peace. Back on Earth, President Amara Okonkwo addressed a joint session of the planetary government. We stand at a crossroads. We have proven our strength. We have earned our place in galactic politics. But strength without purpose is just violence. We need to decide who we want to be now that the shooting has stopped. She pulled up images from across human space. New colonies being established. Trade agreements being signed. Cultural exchanges happening. Human children learning alien languages. Alien children learning human customs. Some say we should remain armed, remain vigilant, never let our guard down. They're not wrong. The galaxy is dangerous. There will always be threats. But if we define ourselves only by our capacity for violence, we become what we fought against. She changed the image to show the memorial at New Providence. Others say we should forgive everything, forget the past, trust that everyone will be peaceful now. They're not wrong either. Reconciliation matters. Understanding matters. But if we forget the lessons bought with blood, we dishonor those who died teaching them to us. A final image appeared. Human and alien children playing together on a space station, their games a chaotic mix of different cultures and customs. Laughing, learning, growing together. This is the path I propose. We remain strong. We maintain our defenses. We never forget what happened at New Providence and 100 other places. But we also reach out. We build bridges. We create the galaxy Sofia Vasquez dreamed of, while staying prepared to defend it if necessary. No, the vote was unanimous. Earth would walk the narrow path between strength and wisdom, between justice and mercy, between preparation and peace. Marcus Webb returned to the council station 3 months after the memorial service. The grand chamber had been redesigned. Instead of tiers rising high above, creating hierarchy and intimidation, the new design placed all delegates on the same level. Humans sat beside Krolix, beside Velcathan, beside the smallest junior species. Equal. Finally, Ambassador Webb Lyra greeted him warmly. She wore the robes of Supreme Arbiter now, the interim status made permanent by unanimous vote. Welcome back. We have much to discuss, Ready Webb replied. What's first? The expansion protocols. We have 17 new species requesting contact with the Council. Under the old system, they would have been tested, rated, forced to prove themselves. Under the new system, they're welcomed, protected, and given the same rights as everyone else. Webb finished. Good, let's make it happen. The work continued. New laws were written. Old treaties were revised. Justice systems were reformed. It was slow, frustrating, complicated work. Nothing like the dramatic confrontation that had started it all, but it mattered. Every species given fair treatment, every victim given justice, every potential conflict resolved through dialogue instead of violence. One day, Webb received a message from an unexpected source. General Hacker, from his rehabilitation facility, Ambassador Webb. I am told I am supposed to write to those I have harmed. To apologize? To seek forgiveness? A long pause. I do not know if I deserve forgiveness. I killed innocents. Destroyed homes. Caused pain I cannot undo. But I am learning slowly what it means to be civilized. Your people taught me that lesson more effectively than 1,000 weapons could have. Webb read the letter multiple times, unsure how to feel. Anger at what Hacker had done. Hope that even he could change. Grief for those who died before that change was possible. He finally wrote back, General, I cannot give you the forgiveness you seek. That belongs to your victims, and many of them cannot give it because they're dead. But I can tell you this. Every day you spend learning, growing, becoming better than you were, is a day you honor their memory. Don't seek forgiveness. Seek to ensure no one else needs to forgive what you did. A year after the New Providence attack, the Memorial Gardens hosted their first wedding. A human colonist and a Nomathi researcher, two people who had met while rebuilding the settlement. Species that had never before intermarried, joining their lives together in a ceremony that blended both cultures. Dr. Vasquez attended. Sitting in the front row, crying tears of joy and sorrow, her daughter would have loved this, would have danced at the celebration, would have made friends with everyone present. She'd be happy, you know, a voice said beside her. Elder Thorne had attended as well. Having devoted his retirement to helping rebuild the settlements his species had destroyed, your daughter. This is what she wanted, what she dreamed of. Vasquez looked at the old Krolix. Yes, it is. I hope, Thorne said quietly, that somewhere in the universe she knows what her death accomplished. How it changed everything. She shouldn't have had to die for it, Vasquez replied. None of them should have. No, they shouldn't have. But they did. And we owe them the galaxy they imagined. He paused. I have dedicated what remains of my life to making sure their sacrifice meant something. It's not enough. It will never be enough. But it's what I have to give. They sat in silence. Two beings from different worlds, united in grief and purpose, watching as humanity's dream of peaceful coexistence took one more small step toward reality. 5 years after the final warning, Marcus Webb stood before the council for what would be his last address as Earth's ambassador. He was retiring, returning home, passing his duties to a younger diplomat who had grown up in the reformed galaxy. When I first walked into this chamber, Webb said, I came to deliver a threat. Stop attacking us, or we stop being civilized. It was the right message at the right time. But threats alone don't build a lasting peace. What builds peace is demonstrating that you mean what you say, that your strength has purpose, that your civilization has substance. He looked around the chamber at faces both familiar and new. We paid a terrible price to learn that lesson. 3,000 souls at New Providence. Hundreds more at other settlements. Every one of them mattered. Every one of them is remembered. And every one of them deserves a galaxy worthy of their sacrifice. Webb smiled. I think we're getting there. Slowly. Imperfectly. But we're getting there. And that's all they would have asked for. As he left the chamber for the final time, a young child ran up to him. A human child from the newest colony, barely old enough to walk. The child held out a small flower, one of the hybrid plants that now grew throughout human and alien space. My mom says you saved us all, the child said. Webb knelt down, taking the flower carefully. No, they did. He gestured to the memorial image on the nearby screen. We just made sure they didn't die for nothing. He looked past the child to see the galaxy they had created, human and alien ships patrolling together. joint colonies flourishing, research stations making discoveries that benefited every species, trade flowing freely, culture being exchanged, children of 100 different species growing up together, learning together, building a future together. It wasn't perfect. There were still tensions, still conflicts, still species who resented the changes, but violence was no longer the first response. Justice was no longer reserved for the powerful. Every species, from the ancient Velcathan to the newest council members, stood on equal ground as Webb's transport lifted off from the council station one final time. Heading home to Earth, he recorded one last message, his final report as ambassador. They thought our civilization made us weak. They learned it made us dangerous. Because nothing is more terrifying than someone who knows the cost of violence and chooses it anyway. We gave them fair warning. We kept our word. And now, finally, we have peace. He paused, looking out at the stars. It's not the peace of submission. Not the peace of domination, but the peace of equals. The peace of species who choose cooperation over conflict, who choose justice over revenge, who choose to build something better than what came before. A final pause. We came to the stars looking for friends and found enemies. We responded with strength and mercy in equal measure. We showed the galaxy that humanity's greatest weapon isn't our ships or our tactics or our technolo. It's our refusal to become the monsters we fought against. Webb ended the recording and closed his eyes. Outside, Earth grew larger in the viewport. Home. Finally, behind him, across the galaxy, the civilization he helped create continued to grow. Imperfect, struggling, learning, but growing. And somewhere, in gardens on 100 worlds, memorials stood to those who had paid the price for that growth. 3,000 names at New Providence. Millions more across the galaxy. Each one remembered. Each one honored. Each one proof that change, real lasting change, is never bought cheaply, but it can be bought. And sometimes, when the price has been paid, when the lessons have been learned, when the hard work of building something better has begun, that change can last. The ancient equation had been solved. Peace plus preparation equals survival. Now came the eternal work of maintaining that balance, staying strong enough to deter aggression, but wise enough to welcome cooperation. Of remembering the past while building the future. Of honoring the dead by giving the living something worth living for. Marcus Webb returned to Earth a hero. But he lived the rest of his days not as a warrior, but as a gardener, tending the memorial at New Providence. Making sure every child who visited knew the names on that wall. Making sure they knew what those names had bought. Making sure they understood that. Civilization isn't about being harmless. It's about being powerful enough to be dangerous, and wise enough to choose peace anyway.